But let's quickly go straight now. I've been told that the central bank governor, Mr. Yemi Cardoso, is now doing the final briefing of the two-day meeting that is ongoing now. Let's join that live briefing right now.
To drive down inflation substantially. The NPC also deliberated extensively on various distortions in the foreign exchange market, including the activities of speculators, putting upward pressure on the exchange rate with high pass-through to inflation. Members were, however, convinced that the ongoing reforms in the foreign exchange market will yield the desired outcome in the short to medium term. Some of these reforms include the unification of the foreign exchange market, promotion of a willing buyer and willing seller market, removal of all limits on margins for INTO remittances, introduction of a two-way quote system, and the broad reforms in the BDC segment of the market to restore stability, enhance transparency, boost supply, and promote price discovery in the Nigeria Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market, NAFEM. The committee reviewed the key financial indicators of the banking system and noted that the system remained stable. To further ensure the stability of the banking system, the MPC called on the bank to increase system buffers by recapitalizing the banks to improve resilience against potential risks. Members further enjoined the bank to strengthen surveillance and compliance regarding its earlier guidance on the application of foreign exchange revaluation gains. The committee identified non-monetary factors driving inflation, such as the persisting insecurity and infrastructural deficits, and noted the role of fiscal policy in addressing these shortfalls, while reiterating the commitment of monetary policy support. In this regard, the committee applauded fiscal policy initiatives towards reducing the cost of living for ordinary Nigerians, including the ongoing efforts to improve food supply and provide mass transit CNG buses to ease the cost of transportation, and the civil service reforms to improve the efficiency of government, amongst others. Key developments in the domestic and global economies. Headline inflation year-on-year rose to 29.90% in January 2024 from 28.92% in December 2023. Food inflation increased to 35.41% from 33.93%, while core inflation rose to 23.59% from 23.07%. The major factors driving inflationary pressure remain exchange rate pass-through rising cost of energy, high fiscal deficits, and lingering security challenges in major food-producing areas. In addition, global factors such as tight financial conditions and trade disruptions from ongoing geopolitical tensions remain significant upside risks to the outlook for domestic inflation. Staff forecasts, therefore, indicate that inflation will remain on an upward trajectory in the near term before commencing a descent. Real GDP growth improved in fourth quarter 2023 to 3.46% compared with 2.54% in the previous quarter, driven by improvements in both the oil and non-oil sectors. The recent improvement in the oil sector was due to the combined impact of increase in crude oil production and a relatively high price in fourth quarter 2023. Forecasts indicate that the economy will grow in 2024 by 3.38%, CBN estimate, and 3.88% Federal Government of Nigeria estimate, and 3% the IMF estimate. Gross external reserves stood at $34.51 billion on February 20, 2024, compared with $32.23 billion at end of January 2024. The improvement was driven by reforms in the foreign exchange market and an increase in oil production, amongst others. In the global economy, inflation is projected to continue to moderate in 2024, but could remain above the long-term objectives of several advanced economy central banks. Consequently, policy rates amongst this group of central banks are expected to remain high in the short to medium term. The committee thus recognized the need to continue to put in place measures to boost investor confidence and to attract capital inflows. To this end, the committee will continue to monitor developments in the global and domestic economies to ensure that inflationary and exchange rate pressures moderate in the near term. The next meeting of the NPC will be held on the 25th and 26th of March 2024. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, sir. That was communique number 150 from the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, presented by the Chairman of the NPC and Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Yemi Cardoso. We will now take questions from members of the press. Please state your name, your medium, and then ask your question. Thank you.
Good afternoon, CBN Holds. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sarah Chimohu. We witnessed rising rates of inflation, and you stated it in your speech. We'd like to know what the bank will be doing to, reduce that for the sake of Nigerians out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Firstly, I hope you can see from the decision that has been announced with respect to our policy stance and the monetary policy rate that clearly we are out to tighten money supply and to ensure that we have a robust structure in place as far as monetary tools are concerned to rein in inflation. Obviously, we expect that this would show effects will moderate in the short to medium term. But increasingly, we also appreciate the fact that there's a structural side to inflation, which we intend to work very, very closely with other arms of government, in particular with the fiscal side. Because in my address, I had mentioned issues of insecurity. Very important that we're able to manage the insecurity challenges and that agricultural productivity is also improved. And of course, the issues of the oil and gas challenges. So our hope is to collaborate very strongly with the fiscal side so that the other elements of inflation that are not directly within our control will be able to be managed a lot better, and a more positive outcome will come to the benefit of all Nigerians.
Thank you very much, Mr. Governor. My name is Samuel Michael Ogu. I write for the Trust Newspaper. My question would be to some other events outside here. In some of your recent engagement, you've talked about infractions in the Forex market, and there had also been reports of how some of the commercial banks have aided some of these infractions. I would like to get a sense of what you will do differently to this commercial bank to rein in on some of the unwholesome practices we have seen in that country.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say that I think it is very important, as in general, that we have a market that has a good amount of liquidity and where distortions are minimized. And by that, I mean create an environment where people can come in, people can go out as they please, and where distortions that are present are taken out so that the market functions a lot better and also is a lot more transparent. In a market like that, you find that the ability, and of course, is policed or maybe regulated by us. Let me not say police, regulated by us. And in an environment like that, you find that the opportunity for players to game the system in any way is significantly reduced. So I think it is very important that we should come to a situation where that happens in our market, where the market is able to attract liquidity and can function properly. And you will see that in recent past, we have been able to, at least through certain monetary tools, begin to attract liquidity into the system. For example, you may be aware that more recently we attracted, and it was quoted quite widely in the press over a short period of time, we attracted up to $2 billion as a result of the tools that we had used to calibrate interest rates, etc., and to make the market move towards greater transparency. So I think that is something that we all should expect to see as improving as time goes along. So that is that. I thought it was important to say that as background and context before I answer the question that you have just raised with respect to infractions. What we are doing at the moment is a collaboration between the central bank and the law enforcement agencies, okay, to ensure that we can understand better what is going on in the market and where infractions are taking place, they be speedily dealt with. Now, I must say that we are moving, as far as the central bank is concerned, we are moving to a very aggressive regulatory environment. We are moving to a very aggressive regulatory environment where those policies have been coming out, as you can see, and tolerance for people not to abide by the regulations that are coming out and to comply is zero. People will have to abide by those regulations, and those that do not will face the consequences for not doing so. As we look to what has happened in the past, I can assure you that a very thorough exercise is going on to identify what needs to be done. And once we come out with the outcome of those, it's not something that we will keep to ourselves. We will advise you accordingly, and we will do what we have to do. In the meantime, as I said, we are going to continue to make the market more liquid and to ensure that those who are genuine and really want to abide by the rules and regulations that have been set by the central bank will be free to do so. Those who do not should be ready to face the consequences. I won't say more than that at this stage in the game.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is James, a major with this day newspapers. Sir, when does the CBN hope to clear the outstanding 2 billion FX commitments? And if you would kindly update us on the bank's FX results. Thank you, sir.
In terms of the backlog, we are committed to clearing the backlog of identified and genuine requests that are pending. Okay, genuine requests that are forward requests that are pending. We are committed to doing that. And I can tell you that just today, we paid out another $0.4 billion to those that were so identified. We paid out $400 million that have to those that have been so identified. And we are committed to continue to do so in one form or the other to those that are genuinely identified and proven cases. It is not in our interest to hold back on paying to those who have been so identified. In terms of the reserves you spoke about, it was in my speech today that it has gone up over the recent past to $34 billion.
Good afternoon, Governor. DGs and members of the MPC. I am Nancy Naji. I want to ask a question concerning Binance. And let me put it this way, that reports have been heightened recently concerning scrutiny on Binance and other cryptocurrency platforms. Given the collaboration you have with SEC, and it's instructive to also say that I can see SEC is a member of the MPC now. So I would like to know the collaborative measures between the CBN and SEC to avoid currency manipulation in the foreign exchange market, but while also nurturing innovation in that space. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nancy. It's a good question. And a couple of things I have to say on this. Number one, we have a responsibility to protect Nigerians. We have a responsibility to protect Nigerians. And it is with that responsibility in view that you have the central bank collaborating with other agencies of government. The collaboration with SEC is not just by virtue of the fact that the Director General of the Stock Exchange is a member of the MPC, but also the fact that they have a very important role to play with respect to the way protecting the interests of numerous investors. They have a very major role to play there. And in that regard, I am pleased to note that the collaboration we've had has been able to identify some of our fears, really, and to confirm, well, maybe not happy, but I can say that we have been able to confirm some of our fears. We are concerned that certain practices go on that indicate illicit flows going through a number of these entities, and suspicious flows at best. In the case of Binance, in the last 1 year alone, $26 billion has passed through Binance Nigeria from sources and users who we cannot adequately identify. There's a lot that is going on now as a result of collaboration between the different agencies, which includes EFCC and the police, and of course the office of the NSA. And in due course, as we progress and have more information to share, we will certainly share. But suffice to say that we are determined to do everything it takes to ensure that we take charge of our market, or put it differently, do not allow others to manipulate our markets in a way that ends up distortionary and suboptimizes for all Nigerians. We will not accept it, and we will do everything possible to prevent any of these kinds of infractions from taking place.
Good afternoon, Mr. Governor. My name is Nduka Cheney of the Nation newspaper. Last Friday, CBN released a draft regulation supervisory guidelines for bureau de change. Can you please tell us, or rather give us an overview of what this guideline tends to achieve when it is done? Thank you very much.
Well, firstly, I must say that in the interests of greater collaboration, the guidelines you refer to are up on our website, and it's like an exposure draft. It's not by any means final. It's an exposure draft whereby we want as many people, as many stakeholders as possible to go there and see what is on offer and see where we are going to, and where you have questions or observations, we're very willing to accept them and incorporate them into the road of travel. What we are hoping to accomplish by this, frankly, is to bring some sanity to an industry that I am sure you will all agree with me has really gone out in a limb and arguably does no longer serve the interests of those who it was meant to protect or reach out to. Too many people had gone into that sector, and really, as at last count, I believe we had over 5,000 bureau decisions going on to 6,000, which definitely had different interests depending on where they saw themselves. And don't forget that at some point in time, the bureau de change was used strictly with the intention by many who applied for these licenses to take advantage of the different windows in the foreign exchange market and in the process arbitrage system on an ongoing basis. Now, we are hoping that by the time this exercise is finished, by the time the guidelines come up, we proposed that for certain categories of BDCs, which are the categories in a particular location, the share capital, minimum share capital, will be £500 million. And for those who choose to work throughout the country, their share capital is proposed at £2 billion. We are also putting strict regulations as to who should be a potential owner of a BDC. In other words, we don't expect it to be an all-comers affair. We expect it to be those who are serious and who genuinely want to provide services to Nigerians, not for themselves, but for all Nigerians. We expect the genuine ones will come out and apply. And of course, we expect to use technology. We expect to use technology for the operations. And as I had said earlier, the whole concept of surveillance and monitoring is going to be something that the central bank is going to incredibly strengthen to ensure that we are on top of those who decide that that is an area they want to face. And as I said, that facing is not for individuals or for certain groups or anything like that. We hope we'll be able to increase competition from those who are genuine and those who have wherewithal, and competition eventually should drive down prices, and Nigerians should benefit from it.
My name is Yemi. There have been a series of circulars on the reform that are carrying out the effects in recent weeks. Could you give us an overview of what you have achieved in terms of the stability of the market?
Thank you. Thank you very much. A good question. And I want to assure you, first and foremost, that these circulars were circulars that a lot of thought went into. They were not knee-jerk reaction circulars. These are circulars, the content of which had been thought of months ago, and the debates had been taking place regularly. In fact, the input for some of those circulars came as a result of certain committees, a number of different committees, many which met as early as 8 o'clock in the morning and went on for hours debating and then putting forward proffering solutions, testing certain assumptions, bringing them back, going back again to discuss and debate again, sleeping over it, looking at what had happened in other countries and the consequences of applying certain measures. Where there had been wins, where there had been losses, we took cognizance of those losses and we bore in mind the peculiarities of our own particular situation before concluding on certain things. So a lot of effort had gone into those, and we started to roll them out as we saw the market developing. You may recall that one of the earlier ones, and a number came out at the same time, but one of the earlier ones had got to do with the open position, the net open position of the banks, and making it very clear what you could and what you could not do, so that there would be no ambiguity in how banks carried out their operations in future. And with that goes regulation. And I can assure you, with that, we had different layers of regulation going to test and to look at the books of the banks and to see where there were infractions and where people were not complying, and ensuring that the circulars were very well understood. So a number of them have come out in that spirit. And quite frankly, the hope is that with greater understanding and with very clear communication, we'll find a situation where the distortions will begin to narrow and hopefully eliminate. I will be the first one to admit that lack of clarity sometimes can lead to distortion. And that is why we feel it is so necessary to put these things down in writing. And for example, as we move along, where we may not have even anticipated certain things, and listening to the stakeholders, we come up with a circular that addresses particular problems. I know that recently we came out to try and bring greater comfort with the rate that is used for Form M's and for customs. We had to do that in recognition of what we saw were potential, I won't necessarily call them distortions, but were making life uncomfortable for those who were using these particular products. So it's important that we as a central bank should listen, and where we see there's need for us to adjust, we adjust appropriately. But long and short of it is, I think, with the flurry of different different circulars that have come out, it has helped to douse the possible unintended consequences of other actions.